Hi, this is Keith Hudgens with National Solutions, and this is the Flexible Wood Veneer CEU. This is a 1 hour AIA accredited course. It comes with a health, safety, and wellness credit, and it serves as a 101 course to just give viewers an introduction to wood veneers and what commercial interior products can be made from them. Learning objectives include wood's part in sustainability, also how grade affects the overall aesthetic of wood, and again, the manufacturing processes and products that can be made from them. One of the reasons why we actually do this CEU is because it's so important for individuals to have biophilic design in a space, and there's no better way to do that than with wood veneers. It's timeless and actually does project an element of the outdoors in a commercial interior space. One of the things that we like to do when we do an educational CEU, number one, is keep it generic, in good faith with the AIA and their expectations. And number two, give a little bit of a history of the product itself. So, wood, like anything else, was born from discovery, and that discovery actually leads to further invention. And some of the earliest examples that we found, in fact, the earliest examples are from ancient Egypt and coming from about 2000 BC. And the Egyptians actually were using wood veneers to make furniture, using it for art, using it for paper. And if you've ever seen pictures of Egypt or been to Egypt, you'll notice that there's not a lot of trees in ancient Egypt or present Egypt. So they were having to go to outlying areas, which are now Syria, Lebanon, and actually bring trees back. So wood was considered a very precious resource to the Egyptians. Therefore, they actually made good use of it, and making good use of it meant that they started slicing it thin and using it for these different products. As time went by, our tools became better. This image you see right now is called a frame saw or a pit saw, and the slicing became thinner and it became a little bit more accessible. So the Renaissance was a great time for wood and a revival of the decorative arts. And this was a time where they advanced techniques. They started bringing wood into more interior spaces, albeit mostly palaces and affluent people. But it also produced on the tail end of the Renaissance an individual by the name of Thomas Chippendale who started making furniture from wood veneers and actually started doing curved furniture and making it accessible again to the more common people. And he was extraordinarily instrumental in the development of wood veneer, as was the piano industry in the U.S. Figured out that they could use more varieties, more species, and control the acoustics a little bit better. So this was actually a great time for the advancement of wood veneers. And then the Industrial Revolution with the invention of the cutting lathe, um, manufacturing and mass manufacturing came into play, and it really turned from artisans at that point to industrial art, and brings us to where we are today with wood veneers. And then modern solutions, we slice down to 0.3 millimeters or smaller. We'll go over the products coming up in the presentation, but the image you see in the current slide is Alice Tully Hall. And these veneers, again, were so thin that all the veneers were taken from one tree. It was an African Moabi, and that was made into a backed veneer that was placed over drywall. There was actually a translucent acrylic backed veneer on the side walls that projected light, and different backings to cover doors and acoustics on the back wall. And again, this was all taken from one tree, so you had an amazing amount of yield and incredible consistency in this product and project. Um, Again, far forward in the presentation, we like to talk about sustainability, and wood is one of the most sustainable products on the planet. It's rapidly renewable. There's actually more trees in the United States today than there were 100 years ago. So when used responsibly, wood is a great product. And beyond that, like we talked about in the previous slide, our slicing techniques actually produce 300% more yield out of a tree. So again, you're getting better use out of a renewable product and more yield, which again makes the product more sustainable. This is actually a short presentation by Patrick Moore, Dr. Patrick Moore. He was the co-founder of Greenpeace, and gives a great little speech on the importance of wood and sustainability in residential and commercial building. And if you'd like access to this presentation, you can simply click on the slide, and he can probably say it a lot better than I can. But again, big advocate for the use of wood in commercial construction. All right, so let's talk about what is wood veneer now that we've talked a little bit about the history. Wood veneer, simply put, is a slice of wood that really can't exist on its own. Wood veneer requires a backer because it's cut so thin. In the industry we play in, approximately 1/16 of an inch or thinner. Again, we slice down to 0.3 millimeters thin. So that's a very important factor. Is that if it's just a wood, it's actually a wood panel or unbacked. So wood veneer does require a backer, which will go into the construction of our wood veneers when we get into the product section. And then wood veneer actually displays different veneer grades. When we look at the natural aesthetic of a tree, it's important again to note right up front that this is not a laminate. This is not a man-made product. This is coming from a tree. So you're getting a natural aesthetic and you're getting a natural color. So if color is really important for you, this is important to know up front. You can match millwork, right? You can do custom colors. You can do custom stains, right? So that's all on the table. But again, from tree to tree, the aesthetic, the grain, the color is going to change slightly, even if you're using the same species. So different parts of the tree we look at, the stump that's not really used in commercial interior products, the trunk of the tree, which the majority of different cuts come from, the crotch of the tree, if you've ever heard of a crotch mahogany, this is simply where the tree is growing apart and creates a really interesting figuring. And then the burl of the tree. This just occurs naturally in nature, possibly when a tree's been injured, and it's regenerating itself and creates a what's called a burled figuring. So that was something that'd be center matched and laid out on sheets as well. Again, we'll get a little bit more into the products. We're just talking about the trees and the aesthetics. So this is a burl. So you can see how beautiful that figuring is, and a lot of walnuts have burls. Sometimes they're underground. You might have to even use a seismic indicator to see if a burl is present. This is a beautiful image of a piece of crotch mahogany. Something like this typically would be used for high-end furniture. Again, we talked about the different parts of the tree. Right, garden variety, this is your tree trunk. This is where again, your flat cut, your quarter cut, rotary cut's going to come from. Right, and then the stump of the tree, you can see how kind of erratic and gnarly the grain is. So this is going to be ground down, typically used for paper, medical products, all different uses. So trees are very well used, and there's a part to be played by every single bit of the tree, even if they're not used for veneers. So when we talk about the veneer and the aesthetics, there's a few things that you're going to look at. And just like any other product, if you're specifying carpet or wall covering, anything that involves color, you're typically going to start with color. And wood veneer is no different. You're going to start with a species, which is going to determine coloring. And then you're going to look at slicing. That's going to dictate the grain and the overall aesthetic. And then what type of matching you use. So we'll go in and give some looks here. Um, when you select from trees, again, the species is going to control the color. Fortunately, there's over 90,000 species of trees on the planet. Unfortunately, we have to eliminate about 89,800 of them because of sap content, the hardness or the softness of the tree, and items that would just eliminate them from being used as a veneer. Luckily, we typically work with 100 to 200 different species, so it's going to give you a lot of opportunities for lights, mediums, darks, and everything in between. All right, and then when we look at how a tree is processed, I felt like this was important so you understand when you're looking at a door, you're not looking at a big wide piece of veneer. You're looking at slices of veneer that have been placed again on a backer, and then either used as a sheet for wall covering or acoustics again, or door covers. And so this would be a log, and these would be flitches that would come from that log. And from those flitches, we're going to, again, we're going to slice these at 0.3 millimeters thin or thinner. And these are going to be processed and they're going to be placed on a backer, right? And this is how they're placed out. So you will get to the what the backing consists of in the product section. But these flitches are cut down into what's called leaves. And then they are stitched together, overlapped and sanded, and finished with 2 coats of urethane and applied to a backer, and they're ready to go when they go out into the field. All right, so once you've selected your species and determined the color of the wood, it's time to select the cut. And the two general cuts are going to be flat cut and quarter cut. And when we looked at the way that the tree was sliced and the different flitches that were available, you're going to see if you have a flat cut, some people call that a half round or a half cut, but it's going to be basically half the log. And because of that, you're going to get a really wide figuring grain. So if you like the cathedraling, if you like a busier grain, a flat cut is what you're going to be looking for. And you can see that in the image here, right? You see the cathedraling in that piece of wood, and then you see this beautiful Mexican rosewood on the wall. Where if you have a pretty simple interior and you want the wall to be the star of the space, a flat cut is absolutely a fantastic choice. All right, well, the quarter cut, you're taking a quarter of the log. So as you would well imagine, the leaves cut from that flitch are going to be thinner. So that cross section is going to be a little bit straighter, a little bit calmer as grains go. So again, this has got timeless appeal. It's something that again it lives in the background a little bit better if you've got a busier interior and you want a little bit of a quieter background with the wood. Still provides a lot of warmth, but again, a simpler aesthetic. Okay, and then a rift cut. This is something that we typically use for oak and products or wood species that don't grow evenly, and they're cut on a bit of a radius, and it creates a kind of a fudged flat surface, right? And this will help prevent reflection and barber pulling also in species. But what you end up getting out of a rift cut is something that looks like a quarter cut. You don't typically have to do this if you're doing panels, but if you're slicing something thin like a veneer, you do want to use a rift cut for some species. All right, and this is actually a horizontal version of a rift cut. Again, you're getting something that looks more like a quarter cut, a little bit of a wider grain in this example. And then a rotary cut. This is almost going to be like peeling the tree like an onion. If you see the example here, it kind of looks like plywood. It's because that's how plywood's also made. So you're taking the entire tree, slicing it, and peeling it, and you get something very, very industrial looking. All right, and then that moves us on to recon veneers. We also call them engineered species. There's a couple of reasons why we would use a recon, and in some cases you have customers who have very expensive taste. They may like zebra wood but might not have the budget. We can actually engineer species like poplar and pine to look like zebra wood, or we can create veneers with colors that don't exist in nature. So if you want that kind of gray barnwood effect, that doesn't exist in nature. If you want a like a charred, black wood, that's again something that doesn't exist in nature, but we can make. The great thing about recon veneers is that we make the block out of other natural veneers and then slice them to achieve an aesthetic that we're looking for. And typically from that, we're getting a huge amount of yield, therefore getting a huge amount of consistency. So if you're looking at using a veneer for a large space, recon is a solid way to go because we do get a lot of quantity out of a block of engineered veneers. Now, after you've selected your species and your matching, we're going to move on to what the standard match is, and that's going to be a book match. And then just imagine if you're opening a book. This is actually how the leaves are sliced and placed on the backing, just like you're opening a book. And that's how you get that mirror image effect. It's how you get that sequential consistency and the visual impact of that kind of repeating cathedral look. So again, if book matching is good for you, you're typically just going to go with the standard match. right? And this is a beautiful installation. I believe this is the Fry Reglet headquarters, where they do have some reveals in with this, what looks like a walnut flat cut. All right, and then slip matching. Again, we talked about rotary cut veneers, and we talked about veneers that might reflect light in different directions. This is important because when you slip match, you're putting the left sides of the wood and the right sides of the wood leaves on the same size. So it prevents a book matching situation where light might reflect in two different directions and cause kind of a on and off light stripe effect on the wall. That's called barber pulling. And slip matching would prevent that. This is something that quality control would catch and alert a customer if that was the direction they were going to go with matching. Right, and this is some slip matched veneers. There's a lot of effects here, so it's hard to exactly see the grain of the wood, but nonetheless, an image example. And in matching, this is something really to make a mental note of, because if you're working with a tall wall or a ceiling, in the case of these wood veneers, we're working with 3x8, 3x9, 3x10 sheets of veneers. In some cases, you might have a 20-foot tall wall or a long ceiling. It's important if you have that situation to end match the veneers. So what's going to happen is typically they're going to be book matched from left to right, and then top to bottom they're going to be end matched. So those grains are going to line up. Okay, so this is a really important factor when specifying wood, so you don't get something that looks like patchwork. And it's important to note that recon veneers cannot be end matched. So this is something you would go with natural species only. Right, and here's a great example of end matching. Right, this would have looked a little off had you just used wood veneer sheets that didn't match from end to end. All right, and then random matching. This is becoming more and more popular. It gives more of a organic, kind of a almost a board by board look, almost like reclaimed wood. This is again where you're taking the leaves, the individual leaves, and we talked about stitching those together, laying them out on the backer, and then creating something that does give a random effect. So again, this is a growing and popular category. You can see just this is a random matched. Again, we've got quite a few examples of railroading wood in here as well, which is fine if that's the aesthetic you're looking for. All right, and that really takes us through just the 101 section. So we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about the products that you can make out of this. So again, once you've picked your species for color, once you've picked your cut for aesthetic, and once the match is in place, what can you do with this stuff, right? So this is the section that talks about that. We're going to talk about flexible wood veneer wall covering, digitally printed veneers, translucent veneers, great subcategories, and then acoustic veneers for panels, planks, baffles, and clouds. So let's first talk about flexible wood veneer wall covering. All right, so this is something that goes directly on drywall. It's going to save you about 40% over traditional millwork. Lightweight, cost effective, just goes up with a clay-based adhesive. So this is a great product again to get AA grade architectural wood on the wall and do it with a wall covering subcontractor and save money on labor as well. A few things about these flexible wood veneer wall coverings. We talked about this just a second ago. 3x8, 3x9, 3x10 sheet sizes. Again, we're yielding 300% more veneers from trees than traditional slicing because we do slice them thin. And they are Class A fire rated. Depending on the species, they can range from 0.2 to 0.3. So again, getting very, very thin on these slices. Because of that, you can do a lot of things with the flexible veneers, including turn corners. You can do inside and outside turns, and then curved edges as well. This is a great little case study. Again, we talked about Alice Tully Hall previously. Again, this was 52,000 square feet of African Mawati, and again, used in 4 different situations here, placed on different backers. So the way that we can be so flexible and so versatile with this veneer is because of the 5-ply construction. And just a quick history again of this, console televisions used to run really hot with the tubes, And this was really kind of a discovery to back wood with foil to protect it from the heat and protect it from moisture. And what ended up happening is it made sure that the wood could be sliced thinner, right? It kept dimensional stability, made it flexible for those inside and outside turns. And then again, protected the face of the veneer from any moisture from coming from behind. So that foil core was absolutely instrumental. And as you can see from the diagram here, you've got your two layers of urethane, standard, right? You've got your wood, an intermittent paper layer, foil, and then a paper backer. And again, 3x9, 3x10, 3x8 sheets. These are going to come in rolled goods, shipped to the site. And it's important to let this product acclimate for 48 hours when you get it into the HVAC. Like any wood product, right? It expands and contracts. So, let it get acclimated to that space. And then again, your wall covering subcontractor is just going to use traditional pastes and tools. And because it is a lightweight product, you're going to save money on shipping over full panels and hardware. So all the way around, a great product. It can be installed on a lot of different surfaces as well. Typically, your most cost-effective method is just direct to drywall. Again, we saw an image where you can use different reveals and get a little bit of a higher end look. It can go directly over wood, and you're always going to want to use the manufacturer references for adhesives. I've got them on this slide here. You can put it directly over plaster. That might have to be smoothed to a level 5 finish. And then non-porous substrates like MDF, metals, acrylics, glass. We've got some subcategories for that as well. It's important to note that when you're working with non-porous substrates, again, you follow the manufacturer's recommendations um, so you don't create moisture barriers as well. And these are just some installation images here, so you can see how the flexible wood wraps these corners. Not something you could do with a regular wood panel. And we love the fifth wall. This is again this is a looks like a flat cut species. It's run on the wall, and then it's run in a ceiling application as well. And this product is a flexible wood. I think this is an oak and a walnut combination in a theater setting. Again, a lot of reveals, really high end look here. It's well used. And again, a simple retail setting where it looks like they're using a flat cut walnut. And then custom options. This is a very low 400 square foot minimum that you can actually change whatever you want with the product. In fact, if we have leaves that are long enough, you can even increase the length of the panel, say if you have an 11-foot ceiling. So you can do custom sheet sizes. If you want to custom color a sheet, absolutely we can do that. If you want stain to match millwork, we can do that. And match that millwork. And then we can also adjust the sheen. It comes with 2 layers of urethane, which we just call a soft sheen. We can keep adding layers to create 30% reflection or 70% reflection, which is called an elite sheen. So if you like a little bit of a more of a reflective surface, absolutely you can do that as well. All right, and then again, the subcategories are fantastic on wood veneers. So we can actually digitally print these products and transfer art to the wall. In this case, again, the fifth wall we've transferred in this image. Again, a biophilic design directly printed on the wood. A lot of wood in that space. And this was a great project that we worked on with Disney, where the initial idea was to do inlay, and inlay can be very expensive. And for a 600 room hotel, multiply again that by 600. So this was a great solution, was to take the artwork, scan in the species they wanted to do inlay. Again, lay down a white layer of ink. You've got a eucalyptus base here, which you can see, and then simply lay down white for artwork and then print the different species over that, so you're not seeing that eucalyptus grain through the digital print. So quite a high level of production, but something, this is why you want to partner with people that know what they're doing. But again, great way to transfer art and biophilic design to something that you can apply directly to drywall. We can also print with white ink. I think this is the Fort Lauderdale Yacht Club, where the one of the common areas has yacht schematics printed in white. And then translucent wood. Again, this is a product you want to work closely with your representative and the manufacturer because there's a few different ways you can actually back and adhere translucent wood. But you can get some really cool effects out of this. I believe that's an oak or a maple where the paragraph's been lasered out, and you've got translucent wood with a backlighting that creates a really cool effect here. So again, we've got different backers, different adhesives listed here. So this one product, it's very important again to work with your rep and manufacturer to make sure based on your installation you're using the right combination of products here. But again, the effect can be absolutely gorgeous. Again, this is the side wall of Alice Tully Hall. And again, when the theater lights come down, you've got a beautiful glow coming from behind this translucent wood. This was an acrylic backer and then applied to plexiglass. All right, and then that takes us on to acoustic wood. So when you get away from just using wood veneer wall coverings applied directly to drywall, or as we saw, you can put that over, metal or gyp or MDF, glass, right? All different substrates you can put that over. You can also go again from the same flitch if you like, and make acoustic products out of the veneers. We simply perforate them, and we'll go through the products coming up here. Right. So this is something again we like to talk a little bit about acoustics up front. Why did we get into this business? We've had so many people over the years ask us if we can take these veneers and make them into acoustic panels. Simply because really every vertical market noise pollution is either number one or in the top five of complaints. If you look at hospitality, if you look at healthcare, if you look at education, noise pollution is always a problem. So, turning wood, bringing biophilic design indoors, and actually mitigating sound is a huge deal. So we take this very seriously. We've closed the loop on manufacturing. Everything's manufactured in the United States. And then that takes us right into the product. So this is your garden variety wood panel. And it's perforated at a 0.7 millimeter. We call it a micro perforation. The important part about getting a good noise reduction coefficient is to have a lot of open face on the product. So this micro perforation does that for you. And then also you get crisper edges because we actually do edge banding rather than wrapping the wood itself. This starts off at a 0.83 NRC rating for just a 1-inch panel applied to a wall with say a Z-clip. And a 56% recycled fiberglass core. So absolutely appropriate for commercial interiors. And we've got some installation shots here as well. Again, just your garden variety wood veneer panel is going to be a 0.83 NRC. This can go up to a 48 by 96 inch, or let's call it a 4 by 8 panel is your standard size. And then you can do really anything you want to do underneath that footprint. So if you want 4 by 4s, 3 by 3s, long as it's in that footprint, you can do really whatever panel size you want. Depending on how they're installed, again, the NRC rating can go up. Planks have become very popular, and so you can do a 6-inch high by 24-inch to 48-inch. Again, 72, 96, a lot of different options here depending on how you want that installation to go. Again, these are all 1-inch planks as well, and a 0.83 NRC rating. Again, that's going to be applied directly to the wall. Your subcontractor typically has a method they like to install it with, but you do anything from peel and stick to finish nails to, again, clipping systems. And then really when you're taking an acoustic panel and hanging it from the ceiling, it becomes a baffle. This is where the NRC rating goes up because you're putting a dimensional product that has microperfed wood on both sides. So you're getting a higher NRC rating, in this case 1.12 with the microperfed baffles. And then you can also insert LED lighting into this. So if your lighting budget's better than your acoustic or your wood budget, it's a good opportunity again to get microperforated AA grade architectural quality wood up with LED lighting installed. All right, and then again, ceiling systems. This is very popular. So depending on what type of ceiling system you're working with, we can actually tool the edges of the product to fit. So even if you're working in a drop-in ceiling or a tegular ceiling, anything like that, absolutely we can do these microperfed veneers and make ceiling panels for any sort of system. And then again, we love the subcategory. So all the acoustic digital printing that we do on wood, and this is a recent project in La Meridian in New York. Again, just offers an elevated designer appeal, and again, microperforated, adding acoustic value. So doing a lot of stuff in a small common area. And this is an interesting case study. So if you take a wood panel and you want to do a radius wall, you can do what's called kerfing, where you just simply score the back of the product, and now you can actually curve that and again create something with a radius. So this was something where they just created bands on this building inside a building and created a nice sound environment. And we like to throw in a new product category when we talk about veneers, and that's plant-based veneers. Wood veneers, obviously, wood's a rapidly renewable product. This is a 90-day renewable product. So it has a distinct look to it, a little bit different than a natural wood veneer. But this is something that is highly durable. It's actually qualified as a type 3 wall covering. It's bleach cleanable and hypoallergenic and highly sustainable. So again, this is a thin sliced veneer. It's just made from plants. We just like to throw this in here as a new product category. It's actually made from flax seed, and that's turned into what's called roving, and then combined with a plant-based product that turns this into a nice, again, 4x8 sheet of veneer that you can put directly on the wall, and 4x10s as well, or you can get rolls. And just a few installation shots of the plant-based veneers.